and First Lady. Good evening, everyone. I'm Julie Banderas, and this is the Fox Report. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe kicking off his visit yesterday at the White House, meeting with President Trump and taking questions from the media. Then in Florida today, the president tweeted a picture of the pair on the golf course before the president got some work in, speaking by phone with two more foreign leaders from Tunisia and Colombia. And little rest for the president's Twitter finger today, with posts on his border wall and criticism of the legal system in the wake of his travel ban court losses. And Kristen Fisher is following the president at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, with the very latest. So, Kristen, what do we know about what happened out on that golf course?
Well, Julie, the White House is describing it as a relaxing and productive day. They say that President Trump and Prime Minister Abe, quote, had great conversations on a wide range of subjects, and the president looks forward to further discussions with the Prime Minister at dinner this evening. Now, yesterday they spoke publicly about all the things that they agree on, that the U.S. will continue to defend Japan, that Japanese companies will invest more in the United States, create more jobs, but they didn't really go into all the things that they disagree on, and there's plenty to talk about, like President Trump withdrawing from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or Japan's huge trade surplus with the U.S., which the president has promised to level out. So maybe they tackled those issues today. The White House won't say, nor will they say who won, which is, of course, what everybody really wants to know, right?
That's absolutely right. And, you know, this golf trip apparently was meant to try to sort of unite them and present a bit of a friendly front for the two world leaders. So how did the golf trip come to be? Whose idea was it?
Well, there's actually a lot of history here. The last time that the two leaders of Japan and the United States played golf together was 60 years ago. President Eisenhower played golf with the Prime Minister of Japan back in 1957, and at the time it was hailed as a triumph of diplomacy between the two former World War II enemies. Well, today, that Prime Minister's grandson played golf with a new American president. So this has been in the works since right after Election Day. It was actually Prime Minister Abe's idea. Remember, he was the very first world leader to meet with Mr. Trump after his victory, and Prime Minister Abe was very concerned about some of the harsh language that Mr. Trump had used during the campaign to talk about Japan. So when he showed up at Trump Tower right after Election Day, he brought with him as a gift a gilded golf club, and that apparently went over pretty well with President Trump, because he is now a guest here at his luxury resort, Mar-a-Lago. So today we're really getting our first taste of the kind of golf course diplomacy that will likely become a hallmark of the Trump presidency. Julie?
It was also a big day for the First Lady, Melania Trump, as well.
It was her very first solo public appearance as First Lady. While the men were out golfing, Mrs. Trump and Mrs. Abe visited a Japanese museum and garden about 30 minutes away from here. It was her first one-on-one outing with another world leader spouse, and tonight she's attending the dinner for the Japanese delegation. They'll be sitting down in about an hour here at Mar-a-Lago, and it sure is a nice night for it.
And I'm sure you've heard about the latest tweet that Donald Trump had put out, the president tweeting once again about Ivanka Trump. Originally, as everyone knows, it was over how Nordstrom was treating her and her brand badly by dropping it, but then now accusing the media of improperly treating Ivanka. So those tweets continue.
Of course, the tweets continue. He was also tweeting about the federal appeals court ruling on his immigration order. Still very upset about that, of course. And behind the scenes, you know, kind of on the surface, it has seemed as though this may be a more relaxing weekend than what we've seen so far from this president. But behind the scenes, the White House is working very hard to really try to rein in two controversies, that immigration order, the fallout from that, and all the calls from some of the top Democrats for his national security advisor, Michael Flynn, to be suspended.
Yeah. No, you got to give it to him. President Trump does not rest, it seems. Kristen Fisher, thank you so much.
Never stops.
No, he does not. Well, with the White House travel ban in legal limbo, President Trump telling reporters he may actually sign a new order on immigration, and that it could come as early as Monday. Now, in an interview, in fact, as he was boarding a plane getting ready to go to Florida for the weekend, he in fact told reporters, "You like a surprise, right? I like a surprise." So it's going to be a surprise what he comes up with. The original ban, though, has, of course, sparked massive protests all across the country. The Democrats, though, hoping to harness that momentum.
In the face of uncertainty and anger, we've seen a new front emerge. People who are united behind our American principles, behind everything that is great in this country, and perhaps most importantly, united behind each other. United because we all know that we are a stronger country because of immigrants. United because we know this country has long prided itself in welcoming the stranger.
Garrett Tenney has the very latest from Washington tonight. So Garrett, what does the White House hope to accomplish with a new executive order?
Well, Julie, you have to remember that President Trump has said all along that this temporary immigration ban was vital to securing our immigration system and protecting the country as a whole. So until his executive order is in place, he believes we are at a greater risk of terrorists coming into our country and committing an attack. And that's why you saw President Trump yesterday say on Air Force One that speed is of the essence, and he doesn't plan to simply sit and wait for this to play out in the courts.
The unfortunate part is it takes time statutorily, so it takes a little time. We'll win that battle, but we also have a lot of other options, including just filing a brand new order.
And that new executive order is expected to be part of a two-pronged strategy to get the president's temporary immigration ban back in place as quickly as possible. So while the new order is rolled out likely early next week, the White House is also expected to go back to the district court in Seattle to argue the merits of the current executive order. Julie?
So Garrett, what will be different then about this new executive order, and why won't it end up getting challenged in the courts as well?
And that's key, and there is no reason to believe that the lawsuits won't again flood in after this new executive order comes down. But this time, the White House has the advantage of experience. It's already heard the rulings from a number of judges across the country, and those rulings tell them what the court's problems with the current executive order are so that they can tailor this new one to address those concerns. And one key point of contention that has come up in several rulings is the lack of details in the current order on who was included in the ban, notably those who have green cards and are legal residents. Earlier today, Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz detailed what some of those changes could look like.
You have to distinguish between categories of potential visitors to the United States. You also have to put a few more due process safeguards into the process so that it seems to be fairer to the courts, and maybe tone down some of the religious language.
And the administration's hope is that the new executive order will be strong and detailed enough that the courts will allow it to stay in place while any legal challenges to it play out. Julie?
All right, Garrett Tenney, thank you so much. So pro-life activists and counter-protesters rallying today at Planned Parenthood clinics all across the country, asking Congress and President Trump to take away federal funding to the organization. U.S. law bans the use of federal funds for abortion. Anti-abortion groups say they expect protests at as many as 225 clinics. Planned Parenthood supporters organized 150 counter-demonstrations of their own. And in North Carolina, tens of thousands of protesters turned out in downtown Raleigh. Today, take a look at this. We are told they are marching against President Trump's policies and a state law that they say limits LGBT rights. North Carolina's NAACP leading the Moral March on Raleigh for the 11th year in a row. Demonstrators carrying signs protesting a variety of things. One of their objections, well, it's to repeal the House Bill 2. That limits which bathrooms transgender people can use in the state. Fox Urgent now, Reuters reporting North Korea has fired some type of ballistic missile. This just in, no report on which kind. This, though, is according to the reporting from South Korea, which quotes the country's military. So again, North Korea firing off some sort of ballistic missile, not the first time, obviously. We will have more on this as soon as we get it. Right now, we're learning more about the immigration raids that took place in 6 U.S. cities this week, when they were planned, and how many people were arrested. Plus, a dramatic rescue caught on tape as National Guard members save a man from drowning. That's all still ahead right here on the Fox Report. California Air National Guard members coming to the rescue after an 81-year-old man was swept from his car and into rushing water. The dramatic rescue caught on tape. Crews were already in the area investigating flood damage. A National Guard helicopter flying down over the water and lowering a rescue officer to the man, who was, by the way, holding onto a tree below for his dear life. Everyone got out of the flood waters safely, fortunately. Well, water now flowing over an emergency spillway at the country's tallest dam. It actually comes after erosion damaged Lake Oroville's main spillway in Northern California. The cave apparently caved in, creating a hole 30 feet deep and 200 feet long that engineers are saying is still growing. This is the first time the emergency spillway has been used since the dam was built almost 50 years ago. Crews saying the dam is safe and there is no threat to the public, but it could cost as much as $100 million to repair. Immigration and Customs Enforcement carrying out a series of raids across 6 U.S. cities this week. Officials from ICE saying more than 160 people in all were arrested and that 75% of them had prior felony convictions. The agency says the raids were planned before President Trump actually took office. Will Carr is live from our Los Angeles bureau with more. So, Will, why do officials say so many people were involved in these sweeping raids? Many like to try to pin it on Donald Trump, but in fact, the president's immigration plan was set after this was actually originally planned in the first place.
That's right, Julian. According to authorities, there was just a lot of bad information out there. The 160 arrest that you mentioned took place in Southern California. Hundreds of others were arrested across the country. And ICE officials say that they weren't coordinated, but they did spark a lot of fear, a lot of rumors, many of which federal authorities say are just not true. So on Friday, ICE officials here in Los Angeles tried to set the record straight, saying the rumors of random sweeps were false, irresponsible, and even put members of law enforcement in danger. They went on to say they had planned the raids for weeks and that the vast majority of those arrested were convicted felons. And authorities pointed out they arrested fewer people during those raids than they did last summer during a similar operation under the Obama administration. Take a listen to John Kelly, the new Secretary of Homeland Security.
First of all, they're not rounding anyone up. The people that ICE apprehend are people who are illegal and then some.
The raids mixed with the administration's hard line on immigration and led to protests in downtown Los Angeles Thursday night. Now critics say they're prepared to continue to fight the administration moving forward.
People are scared, they are panicked, but as nonprofits, we have this plan in place. We're ready, we're here to fight, we're here to resist.
37 of the 160 arrested in the Los Angeles area were from Mexico, and Julie, they've already been deported.
All right, let's make something clear here for all those who are going to attack the Trump administration for being responsible, because large deportations are actually nothing new, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. There were actually more deportations under the Obama administration than during the Clinton and George W. Bush years combined. If you take a look at the numbers, more than 3 million immigrants were deported between the years of 2009 and 2016. It's unclear if the Trump administration will actually top that number, but we obviously know they have made immigration a top priority, Julie.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Will Carr in Los Angeles. A babysitter accused of using 2 kids to rob a bank faces charges in court. Hear what one of the children actually told police really happened. You're not going to believe it. Plus, Russia is reportedly considering putting NSA leaker Edward Snowden on a plane headed for the U.S. Why would Vladimir Putin want to do that?
If it is true, a couple of things. One is it would be a win-win for Putin, because there is no way after all this time he doesn't have everything in Snowden's brain. He has drained that puppy dry.
Police arresting a convicted sex offender in the death of an Ohio State University student. 21-year-old Reagan Tokes went missing after leaving work at a Columbus restaurant Wednesday night. Her body was found the next day near the entrance to a park. Police charging Brian Goldsby with aggravated murder, kidnapping and robbery after finding the young woman's car near his home in Columbus. Goldsby was released from prison in November after serving time for robbery and attempted rape. A babysitter accused of using 2 girls that she was watching to rob a bank, and now she's pleading guilty. The babysitter, 28-year-old Rachel Einspar, faces a 6-year prison sentence. It happened in Colorado. Now, officers say she drove up to the bank, passed a note to a teller saying an armed man was in the back seat threatening the children and demanding money. Well, then one of the children later told police there was no gunman. The former National Security Agency contractor who leaked classified documents could soon land back on American soil. Russia is reportedly considering returning Edward Snowden to the U.S. in order to gain favor with President Trump. Snowden insists if Russia is willing to send him back, it proves he's not a spy. Which story do we believe? Brian Yennis is live from our New York City newsroom. Actually, no, he's not. He's here. Oh, man.
It's been a long day, Julie.
That really was. Show 3. I am not Ron Burgundy. Anyway, go ahead. So tell me, what is happening with this? Because you're hearing 2 totally different sides of the story.
Well, yeah, it depends on who you ask. There's a difference in semantics when it comes to this report. A government source tells Fox News' Catherine Herridge that Russia believes they have exhausted Edward Snowden's value, and he is now more useful as a bargaining chip to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, the implication here is the Russians would give up Snowden to the U.S. in return for something. What? We don't know. It could be anything. We do know the Obama administration has wanted him back in the U.S. We know President Donald Trump has called the NSA whistleblower a, quote, terrible traitor, and tweeted before he was president that Snowden deserves to be executed. The new CIA director, Mike Pompeo, also says Snowden deserves the death penalty. Now, this information to Fox News comes after an NBC report, which seems to take a step further when it comes to this report, citing 2 government officials. NBC reports that Russia is considering handing over Snowden to the U.S. as a, quote, gift to President Trump in an attempt to curry favor with the president. A gift changes the meaning of the intent of giving up Snowden, and as the former Deputy National Security Assistant to President George W. Bush, Juan Zarate, tweeted, he said the U.S. should be, quote, wary of a gift from Putin. It could very well be an attempt to try to stir controversy here in the United States, and Snowden is a divisive person. I mean, this is somebody who some people think is a hero, other people think he's a traitor.
Yeah, I mean, what is Edward Snowden saying about this report? Because he is putting into question whether he's actually a spy.
Right. So he denies that he is a Russian spy. He began tweeting yesterday, tweeting that he denies that he's a Russian spy because he believes why would a country return a spy they know could then harm them? And earlier today, he suggested the Russian government was actually out to get him, tweeting, quote, days ago I criticized the Russian government's oppressive new Big Brother law, now threatening rumors. But I won't stop. I don't know if the rumors are true, but I can tell you this. I'm not afraid. There are things that must be said no matter the consequence. Don't be afraid. Be ready. There are more of us than them. Russia has granted Snowden asylum until 2020, fueling accusations he has given Russia U.S. secrets in return for safe refuge. The Department of Justice says he's facing at least 30 years in prison for violating the Espionage Act, and Snowden's lawyers insist he would like to come back to the U.S. with no criminal charges looming. And by the way, the spokesman to President Vladimir Putin says that this is all, quote, nonsense.
So it's not going to happen? It's all made up?
That's what the spokesman says.
I can't keep up with the news these days. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you. Well, the new chief of Homeland Security says that he thinks the immigration ban will be upheld by the courts, but he says he wishes the rollout had been delayed. But why? We'll try to answer that. Plus, Representative Tom Price swearing in as the top U.S. healthcare official, giving President Trump his desired point man for replacing Obamacare. So now what? More ahead on the challenges the GOP faces with replacing the healthcare system. Next.
We're both confident that you will bring that experience as a physician, that experience at the state level, and that singular experience at the national level to ensure that President Trump's vision for a healthcare system in this country that works for every American will become a reality.
I'm Julie Banderas, and this is the Fox Report. Now for time to take a look at some of the top stories of the day. President Trump hosting the Prime Minister of Japan at his estate in Florida. We are awaiting the start of a delegation dinner tonight in about half an hour. And of course, it'll wrap up a busy day of golf, phone calls with foreign leaders, and tweets. Meanwhile, the president telling reporters he might sign a new order of immigration, a new executive order, as the White House travel ban sits in legal limbo. That could actually come as early as Monday, but this one would be tailored to address some of the concerns raised so far in the courts. Immigration and Customs Enforcement carrying out a series of raids in 6 U.S. cities this week. Officials from ICE saying more than 160 people were arrested and 75% of them had prior felony convictions. Now, the agency says that the raids were planned before President Trump took office. I'm going to cough now. Whatever, at least I warned you. Also today, President Trump tweeted about the cost of his wall along the southern U.S. border. That's after the government analysis determined that it would actually cost more than $20 billion. The president tweeting, and I'm reading, that the Great Border Wall will cost more than the government originally thought, but I have not gotten involved in the design or negotiations yet. When I do, just like with the F-35 fighter jet or the Air Force One program, price will come way down. Meanwhile, the new chief of Homeland Security going before lawmakers and discussing the immigration travel ban. John Kelly says he thinks that it'll actually be upheld by the courts, but wishes the rollout had been delayed. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has more.
The largest opening in the most uncontrolled part of our border is the southwest border.
In his first congressional testimony as Secretary, Homeland Security Chief John Kelly did not back away from the administration's commitment to the wall and the travel ban.
Americans must feel safe to walk down the street, go to the mall, or to a nightclub, anywhere and anytime. Fear must not become the status quo.
Lawmakers pressed Kelly on whether his own Customs and Border Patrol agents think a physical wall is necessary.
Has somebody at CBP told you that we need a 2,000-mile wall built along that border?
Maybe there are some places that are too rugged to put a wall, and we cover that with patrolling in technology.
While taking some blame for the travel ban rollout, Kelly said the 7 mostly Muslim nations are either not cooperating or can't provide reliable intelligence.
For the last number of years, the vetting is at best loose, and the amount of information, you take some of these countries we're talking about that are in really state of failed states.
The pause will give us time to enhance security checks to stop terrorists from using our immigration system as a Trojan horse.
Republicans and Democrats push Kelly for evidence terrorists have slipped into the U.S. as refugees.
We don't have any proof at this point.
Not until the boom.
Not until what?
Not until they act and blow something up or go into a mall and kill people. So we won't know until then.
There's a new sheriff in town. I hear there's so
At the White House, President Trump reinforced his message by hosting county sheriffs, many from border states.
Let me tell you the difference of 6 months. I sat in this room, in this chair, and I was pleading. I was begging for help.
It was 180 degrees from what we heard from the previous administration. And
You're seeing a big difference.
We're very proud to have you as president.
Secretary Kelly said he is an advocate for social media screening, and visa applicants who refuse to comply will be blocked. On the travel ban, Kelly said he is confident the administration will prevail in court, offering lawmakers no plan B. In Washington, Catherine Herridge, Fox News.
Well, Senators Bernie Sanders and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are calling for nationwide rallies in support of the Affordable Care Act later this month. This comes after Tom Price was sworn in as U.S. Secretary of Health yesterday, putting in place a determined opponent of Obamacare to help President Trump fulfill his pledge to reshape the country's healthcare system. For a closer look at the challenges Trump faces, here's Chief Political Correspondent Carl Cameron.
Congratulations. After the new Health and Human Services Secretary, Tom Price, was sworn in by the Vice President, the President suggested the repeal and replacement of Obamacare is accelerating.
We finally have our Secretary, and now we get down to the final strokes.
Secretary Price has a colossal task ahead. During his confirmation hearings, he made these 2 promises.
What I commit to, Senator, is working with you and every single member of Congress to make certain that we have the highest quality health care and that every single American has access to affordable coverage. We will commit to making certain that they don't lose coverage under whatever replacement plan comes forward.
As a Republican congressman, Price, a physician, was one of many to author a replacement health care plan. So far, his former House colleagues have failed to find a consensus. Nonetheless, House Speaker Paul Ryan has also indicated another big step will come in less than 7 weeks.
We want to be moving our Obamacare legislation by the end of the first quarter.
The president's indicated a final replacement may not be fully implemented till next year. Some GOP senators have argued no repeal should advance without a simultaneous and superior replacement.
No one's talking about repealing anything until there is a concrete, practical alternative to offer Americans in its place.
A huge part of the looming Obamacare replacement revolves around Medicare and Medicaid. As a candidate, President Trump endorsed block-granting Medicaid to the states so services could be tailored at a more local level. As a congressman, Price backed that idea too. Democrats say block-granting Medicaid to the states is a dangerous abdication of a federal responsibility, and during his confirmation hearings, Price had an answer for that too.
Our commitment is to make it so that they have that coverage or greater.
That's a commitment you're making.
That's a commitment.
The last piece of the Trump administration healthcare team will be the confirmation of Seema Verda to head the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Her confirmation hearing is next week. In pushing Obamacare, the last president's commitments that healthcare would be cheaper and if you like your doctor, you could keep your doctor weren't kept. Republicans are intensely aware of that and struggling not to overpromise nor underdeliver. In Washington, Carl Cameron, Fox News.
French investigators taking 4 people into custody, including a 16-year-old girl, after they say the suspects were plotting a terror attack. Prosecutors saying a raid found a makeshift laboratory and ingredients to make a bomb. Kitty Logan has more from London.
Julie, 4 suspects were arrested by anti-terror police near Montpellier in the south of France yesterday. One of those was a 16-year-old girl. The French Interior Ministry says the suspects were planning an imminent attack in France. According to police, the group had been monitored buying bomb-making materials. They had also set up a makeshift lab. At least one of the suspects was known to intelligence services and was thought to have had plans to travel to Syria. And the girl has allegedly appeared in a video pledging allegiance to ISIS. This all follows an incident a week ago when a man tried to stab French soldiers near the Louvre Museum in Paris. He is now facing charges of attempted murder as well as association with a terrorist group. The French government says this was an attempted terrorist attack. France is still under a state of emergency after mass attacks over the past 2 years, which have killed more than 200 people. Thousands of police and soldiers patrol the streets of Paris and other major cities as a precaution. But a carnival in Nice today has passed off without incidents so far. Security had been stepped up after a truck attack killed 86 people there last July. Authorities will no doubt be relieved that this latest potential attack has been averted, but France does stay on high alert, of course, with elections coming up in the spring. Julie?
Kitty Logan, thank you. It is round 2. A new winter storm, another one targeting New England just days after the last one, that massive storm that just slammed the region.
Need grace to make it every day. Ain't got no room for no
Plus, the stars come out tomorrow for the Grammys. We'll have the story behind the Isaacs, a nominated group, and how hard work and her parents' move to America helped her live beyond the dream. A Fox urgent now. Reuters reporting North Korea has fired some type of missile. This is according to the reporting from South Korea, which quotes the country's military. Now, if confirmed, this would be the first North Korean launch during President Trump's time in office. And the timing of it is noteworthy. It happens to come as Japan's prime minister visits Washington and Florida. Now, of course, Japan, a key player in this missile defense program, as the United States has sent several warnings, dozens of warnings to North Korea to stop stockpiling nuclear weapons, to stop firing off these ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan. Between South Korea and China, obviously pressure being put on those two countries, especially China, though, to stop, to put sanctions down on North Korea, to do something and to stick to it. President Obama failed We're waiting to see how President Trump does deal with this. Indeed, now that this is the first time he will be tested and his administration in watching the defiance out of North Korea again. The defense secretary visited South Korea and Japan on his first overseas trip earlier this month. There are roughly, in fact, 80,000 U.S. troops stationed in South Korea and Japan right now. So how these two countries will handle this latest test fire, we will have to wait and see. But of course, we will have more on this breaking story as we get it. Well, tomorrow the stars will come out for the Grammy Awards. Today we focus on one group that is nominated for a Grammy. The Isaacs is a multi-award winning family who began singing 35 years ago. Their musical style includes bluegrass, country, rhythm, and blues to gospel. In this installment of Beyond the Dream, we focus on the founder of the group, a woman whose parents emigrated to this country to give their children that unique opportunity that America offers. Fox News' Kelly Wright has the story.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous.
At a time when some Americans are taking a knee instead of taking a stand when the national anthem is sung, when some are protesting the outcome of the presidential election, and others are uncertain about America's future, the Isaacs is a family that believes the United States is still one nation under God, for liberty and justice for all. Their patriotism and country roots began in Kentucky more than 30 years ago with their mother, Lily Isaacs. How meaningful is it to you when you hear your children sing that song? What does it represent?
My heart races and I want to cry. We're proud of it, and my kids are first generation born Americans, and the national anthem means a lot.
Unlike her children, Lily was not born and raised in the bluegrass state of Kentucky, and she wasn't born in America. She was born in Israel to parents who survived the Holocaust. They came to America in hope of building a better life.
Being an American has been so important to me and my family, and my parents being Holocaust survivors. We came to America in 1949, and my parents worked so hard to become American citizens. And I remember going to Ellis Island when I was 9 years old with my parents and standing and taking the oath to become an American citizen. So, you know, I don't take that lightly. We're proud of it.
Seeing what your family endured just to get here, to have a taste of that American dream and live it out in the best way imaginable for you, what comes to mind when you see people today?
Well, I have to say that I respect my parents so much. They're my heroes. Because when we came here, my parents were stripped of everything. They lost most of their family in the war.
The sad and harsh realities of war forged a steely resolve in Lily and her parents. It fueled her dream of becoming successful in music. She landed her first recording contract on Columbia Records in 1967. While performing in Greenwich Village, she met Joe Isaacs, a banjo player for a bluegrass band from Kentucky.
His background is so different, Kelly. He's the baby child of 17 children raised in the mountains of Kentucky. So, you know, they say opposites attract.
They got married and lived in Kentucky, where they raised their children on love, faith, and music. The marriage didn't last, but Lily and the kids kept making good country and bluegrass gospel music, even earning numerous Grammy nominations and Dove Awards. For Lily, it's a platform to share her story of faith beyond the dream.
We want people to walk away feeling that there's hope in life. There's so much in the world today that we hear and we feel, and there's fears and anxiety and trouble everywhere you look. So we know that through faith that you have hope in life. And that's what we want people to know from our music.
'Cause I need grace to make it every day. Ain't got no room for no rocks in my pocket. Got no room for no rocks in my pocket. Got no room.
was Fox News' Kelly Wright reporting, and tomorrow is a big night for the Isaacs. They are hoping to win their first Grammy, so good luck to them. A major milestone for man's best friend, how these canines are answering a higher calling and changing lives in the process. That's ahead on the Fox Report. Ready for round two? I know I am, but I love the snow. I know you don't all agree with that. More winter weather heading for New England just days after that massive storm hit the region just days ago, dumping more than a... Ready for...
Thank y'all a whole bunch.
Ready for round two? I know I am, but I love the snow. I know you don't all agree with that. More winter weather heading for New England just days after that massive storm hit the region just days ago, dumping more than a foot of snow on parts of the Northeast. Well, the area now bracing for several more inches of snow. Fox News meteorologist Adam Klotz is live in the Fox Weather Center with more. Bring it on, Adam.
Yeah, good news for folks in the Northeast if they want snow, but it's been kind of a wacky forecast today. I want to show you some other things happening across the country as well. Snow eventually on the way for the Northeast, but what's happening in the center of the country? Look at some of these temperatures, near record breakers, incredibly mild, incredibly warm across the center of the country, especially in the southern plain states. We've still got places in Dallas at this hour, 83 degrees. You're looking at 87 degrees over in Midland, even in portions a little farther off to the east. Still the middle 70s up in the Memphis area, 75 degrees in Jackson. It is incredibly warm in the center of the country as of right now. Now the cool spots, the cold spots, that's still up in the Northeast. And when we eventually see some rain move that direction, it'll turn into snow and turn into a big winter storm. Here's what it looks like across the Northeast right now, getting a little bit of a break. But that new system I'm tracking, that's working its way in really for your Sunday, eventually into your Monday. So this is an hour-by-hour future forecast. I'm taking you early into Sunday morning, beginning to see some of that rain run into colder air. At first, it's a wintry mix. As it heads farther north, that's when it becomes more and more of a snow event. So I can continue to track across this. You're looking at upstate New York, stretching over to portions of Maine, all areas where we could see some really significant snowfall taking you from Sunday all the way into Monday. Now, how much snow am I talking about? Well, we can take a look at some of these accumulation numbers, and it really does begin to pile up, especially running you from Boston up towards Portland, Maine. In some of these areas, we're talking about easily 18 inches, maybe in some cases getting up closer to 2 feet. A little farther to the south, a little bit less snowfall, but still, this is another big nor'easter that we're going to be talking about for New England coming throughout the rest of your weekend and then eventually into your Monday. As a result, we're under a winter storm warning for large portions here. Again, upstate New York stretching over towards Boston and then farther to the north. So this is going to be the big system, Julie, we're tracking later today through Sunday and then eventually into Monday as well.
All right, Adam Klotz, thank you very much.
Yep.
And here's something to make you smile, a passing of the leash ceremony for a group of newly trained service dogs. Fox 5 San Diego's Jason Sloss has more.
A graduation ceremony at Canine Companions for Independence in Oceanside is a celebration of hard work and new journeys for 15 service dogs and their new companions, including little Solana De La Cruz, who can't keep her hands off her new service dog, Nick. How much do you love him?
A lot.
Nick is a good match for Solana, who suffers from a developmental disability along with anxiety.
She starts getting nervous, or if she hears something that's way too loud and it startles her, he'll come in and he'll put his head on her lap and calm her down and make her feel better.
Leading up to this moment, the dogs go through 6 months of professional training, learning dozens of commands and performing tasks, but it's the emotional support that makes it companionship.
Not only is their dog helping them physically, but it's getting them out and about, and they're just enjoying life that much more by having their companion by their side.
Belinda Shantz now has Gladys by her side, and she says they quickly bonded.
They're just wonderful. They just know and they feel the connection. You just can't help it. It's indescribable, actually. But you just know. It's like, there's no way I'm giving her back.
There are also bittersweet goodbyes for families who raised pups for 18 months to prepare them for their training.
It's just an incredible feeling to work with the dog that just adores you.
It may be hard during it, but you know that they're going to go off and do something so amazing with someone else. And it's really what they're meant to do.
Oh, you're so sweet, aren't you? You know, all the kids and adults who get these wonderful dogs are not charged. This is basically done through the help of volunteers and donations. If you'd like more information, we'll have it for you on our website at fox5sandiego.com. In Oceanside, Jason Sloss, Fox 5 News.
Well, President Trump making an appearance on the French Riviera. His likeness, anyway. We'll have more on this straight ahead.
The security of our nation, the security of our citizens. We are at risk.
The Smithsonian National Zoo is saying goodbye to America's favorite panda. 3-year-old Bao Bao is heading to China later this month. The panda cub is called a miracle, being the first surviving cub born at the National Zoo since 2005. All giant panda cubs born at the zoo are moved to China.